President Trump did not win an Oscar, and he wasn't at last night's ceremony, but his presence was certainly there. Spike Lee made sure everyone got the message. He's not a big fan, and today the president responded as only he can. Let's talk about it now with senior political analyst Brit Hume. Good evening, Brit.
Hi, Chris.
So, last night, Spike Lee finally, after a long career, finally won an Oscar, and he ended his acceptance speech with this. Take a look.
The 2020 presidential election is around the corner. Let's all mobilize. Let's all be on the right side of history. Make the moral choice between love versus hate. Let's do the right thing.
President Trump took exception, tweeting this morning, "Be nice if Spike Lee could read his notes, or better yet, not have to use notes at all when doing his racist hit on your president, who has done more for African Americans, criminal justice reform, lowest unemployment numbers in history, tax cuts, etc., than almost any other president." Brit, what do you make of that exchange?
Well, I don't think it was racist. And I don't even think it was particularly anti-Trump. He didn't mention the president. Look, Chris, you may have heard me on this before. I think the way the word racist is flung around these days is a terrible thing. It was a great triumph for the civil rights movement, the national consensus, overwhelming national consensus against racism. And the word has been weaponized in politics. It's used often by the left against conservatives and Republicans. Now we have the president using it against Spike Lee, who is obviously a Democrat and a leftist. I think the president is out of line on this. I think Spike Lee, I mean, he said some pretty strong things before, but that was a kind of a unifying message. He said love versus hate. I think, Chris, you and I are both for love versus hate. I would think if you asked the president, he'd say he was too. So I don't think it was his finest moment, that response.
And then there were a number of comments during the night about Mexico and the wall. Here are just a few of those.
There is no host tonight. There won't be a popular movie category, and Mexico is not paying for the wall.
There are no borders or walls that can restrain ingenuity and talent.
And Alfonso Cuarón won not one, not two, but 3 Oscars for his movie Roma, talking about Mexico and praising Mexico. It seemed pretty clear last night, Brit, that Hollywood is on one side of the wall and the Mexico controversy, and thinks the president is on the other.
Well, I think that's right, Chris, but I think it goes a little beyond that. I think the way Hollywood has gotten, and with it the Oscar ceremony has gotten, is that Hollywood is on one side of a divide in this country, and with about half the country perhaps, and the other half of the country is on the other side. Now, there was a time, when the entertainment industry thought it was its business to entertain and attract as many people as possible. Those days seem to be gone. The Oscar ceremony used to be kind of a national moment. Everybody watched. It was not politics drenched the way it is now. In fact, Chris, I just happened to see a clip the other day because a man named Stanley Donen, who was a longtime director, the man who directed the famous film Singing in the Rain, died. And he got in 1998, he got a career Oscar, Lifetime Achievement Award, and he did an absolutely charming little acceptance speech in which he sang a song and did a little soft shoe and then thanked all the talented people who worked for him. The audience went wild. That's how the Oscars used to be. I think they'd be better off if they were that way today.
Political analyst and movie critic Brit Hume. Brit, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris.